WeatherScope.
A winter storm is spread across the northeast and into southern New England tonight, bringing rain and frozen precipitation. Hello, everyone. I'm Warren Madden.
And I'm Jeff Morrow. Much of the eastern half of the U.S. is dealing with some pretty nasty weather as we near the weekend. We'll begin with some pictures from Worcester, Massachusetts, where our own Kristen Dodd was reporting from tonight. And it was a mixed bag. There we go with, you had to scrape the windshield there because of the ice coating earlier. That went to sleet and then to some snow. And most of the covering that you see there on the grass and on the sidewalk and on some of the road surfaces there, that is a coating of some sleet and maybe a little snow mixed in, little kind of ice balls and snowballs were falling there when we were talking to Kristen. And it's still coming down in that area, maybe mixing in with some freezing rain at times as well. Putting this on into motion, you can see the big slug of moisture, all this green moving up and over the mass of cold air, which is firmly in place here. Lots of reports of freezing rain from northwest PA through central Pennsylvania, probably around University Park, Altoona, Williamsport, and right on up to Binghamton and on back toward Elmira. Then if you head farther north up toward Rochester and Syracuse and into the Adirondacks, you get into some snow. Moderate sleet being reported right now around the Capital District there in Albany. Freezing rain and sleet around Worcester, as I mentioned, and on down toward Hartford. But New York City, and also as we head on up toward the Boston area, temperatures slightly above freezing here. It's been all rain in New York, all 5 boroughs. But if you head far enough to the north, Newburgh at the airport anyway, that airport's been shut down completely because of the ice, and a state of emergency has been declared in along the interstate here just west of Newburgh in Orange County because of icing. So I'm sure the interstate there is very, very bad. So be very careful traveling north of the New York City metropolitan area. Boston, as I mentioned, slightly above freezing, but it has been snowing lightly there. And if you head west and north of town, yeah, you're definitely going to get into the ice and the sleet and the snow, particularly on the Mass Pike back through the Worcester area and on back westward. Hartford, as I mentioned, getting some freezing rain as well, but Providence, you're okay, and Long Island definitely in the rain. Snow confined to areas farther onto the north from the Adirondacks on through the central areas of Vermont and New Hampshire and southern Maine as well. That's where you might get as much as 3 to even 4 or 5 inches of kind of powdery snow. That's what's going on with our storm in the northeast, but we've got something else brewing in the south. With more on that, let's go back to Warren.
Thanks, Jeff. You've had soaking rains again in Florida and some very wintry weather in other parts of the south tonight. In Memphis, Tennessee, you've had a shot of wintry precipitation this evening. The rain you saw earlier in the day turned to sleet and freezing rain, and then about 8 o'clock Central Time, the snow began flying. The wintry weather is being felt throughout western Tennessee and into northern Mississippi. Farther to the south and east, Florida was much warmer, of course, but still not a great day to be outside. This is the Plant City area east of Tampa. You had relatively light rain in this part of the state, but just north of here, 2 inches of rain came down, soaking the region. Looks like a wet night as well, but we should be clearing out as we work through Friday morning. Here's the situation in the southeast right now. We do have a low pressure center in Mississippi, or actually in Alabama, and it is gradually working its way eastward. Ahead of it, lots of moisture still coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico, causing some problems. And then behind it, right there, you can see that orange and the white. That's the snow and the freezing rain. Still lots of rain going on across much of Virginia, coming down into eastern North Carolina, along the coast of South Carolina as well, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, on down toward Hilton Head and Savannah. Atlanta, a few showers on the north side of town, northwest side of town, up toward Cherokee and Cobb counties, up toward Paulding County, but not too much going on south and east of the city. Farther to the south, we're seeing some thunder rumbling here, or hearing some thunder rumbling here between Fort Myers and Tampa. Also some rain going on in the Miami area right now. Pretty much the entire peninsula seeing some rain, although Lake Okeechobee not seeing much right at the present time. Not much in the way of thunder, though. You can see just a few red dots showing the lightning strikes. Notice that there's nothing up here, though. Gee, you wouldn't know it by looking at this radar. Look at all these oranges and yellows. That's because it's sleet. That is what looks like thunder, but it's actually sleet reflecting off the radar. Watch out, western Tennessee. Temperatures right now, 43 in Birmingham, 32 in Little Rock, but much warmer as you head farther south, in the 60s now across the Florida Peninsula. Let's head out to the western United States, where we have some other weather going on. Checking in now with Jeff.
While Washington and Oregon are finally getting a bit of a break from stormy weather, Northern California continued to see some rain and a little bit of mountain snow today. These scenes are from San Francisco. The area received a dose of wet weather most of the day. Roads could still be a little bit slippery tonight with some standing water. You want to be extra careful if you're out and about. Been a lot of rain around the Bay Area, Central California in recent days, and it looks like a new batch may be just ready to move on in, and we can see that on the satellite radar composite. There it is. Here's our next system. Big arcing cold front, the actual center of the storm up here in the Gulf of Alaska, but moisture again pulling in on our jet stream flow right in off the Pacific, starting to show up just offshore of Arcata, Crescent City, and Eureka, California. This first batch that was making it rain around San Francisco earlier is now pushed farther to the east. Still a little bit of rain and some high elevation snow in the southern Sierra Nevada at the present time, and it's even raining lightly down around the San Diego area. Very light rain and drizzle kind of scattered about here as the system is weakened as it's moved to the south and east. Our first system, this is really one that moved in yesterday and brought all the rain and the mountain snows to the northwest. Still a little bit of light snow out through the central parts of the Dakotas, a little freezing rain thrown in here too in South Dakota, and a little snow a little bit farther on to the west. Again, here's what's left of that first batch of moisture still banking up against the southern Sierra Nevada and on down into the Tehachapi Mountains. And there's our next batch moving on over toward Eureka. And again, a little bit of maybe light rain, mountain snows here along Interstate 80 moving through Salt Lake City. A little snow up there around the Eisenhower Tunnel and on up toward the Cheyenne area. This is light snow and a little freezing rain mixed in, very light here as it moves out of the Dakotas on over toward the Twin Cities. It's 33 in Pierre, 35 in Denver, 33 in Salt Lake City, and 42 in Seattle currently. What about that forecast? As we head on up into the northeast in particular, it could get pretty tricky tomorrow. With more on that, let's go back to Warren.
Indeed, it can get pretty tricky. Let's look at the forecast going into Friday morning here into the northeast. Boston, watch out. The city heading down toward the South Shore in towards Scituate, Marshfield, probably rain. But as you head north and west of the city over toward Framingham or up toward Haverhill, watch out. We'll be seeing some mixed precipitation out there. And that could mean some slippery driving conditions heading up 495 toward Marlborough, coming around 128 up in toward the Bedford area, Hanscom Air Force Base. Likewise, heading up in toward the Hudson River Valley, heading up toward White Plains, heading farther north in toward Poughkeepsie, some mixed precipitation. And if you're traveling across I-70 here in southern Pennsylvania, watch out for some icy precipitation. Far to the south, some showers to start the day in Atlanta. Also, maybe some thunder around Miami and Orlando, but should start out cool, chilly, but sunny in Houston. 20 and cloudy in Chicago, but dry to start your day off. Some flakes of snow perhaps around Minneapolis. And on into the western United States, where we'll be looking at some rain perhaps heading into Portland, up towards Seattle, and maybe even San Francisco up north, heading up into Marin County, seeing some showers, but San Francisco looking cloudy with a low of 52. Speaking of lows, nothing out of the ordinary.